His Excellency, Mr. Martin van den Berg, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Mr. Enrico Palermo, Head of Australian Space Agency, Ms. Anna Shadbolt, Deputy Commissioner from United Kingdom, and my friends and colleagues, Kamal, Jayant, Radhakrishnan, Sudhir, Raghupati, and Mr. Somnath, Secretary, Department of Space and Chairman, ISRO. I extend my personal welcome to you to the Bengaluru Space Expo 2022, the 7th edition being organized by CII. I'm delighted to be here with you. This perhaps is the most sought after space exhibition or workshop or conference that happens in India. This event has a very special significance for me. It was just about a year ago that I was appointed chairman of INSPACe, and that was a week before the 2021 edition of BSX. I knew nothing about the space sector at that time, having come from automotive industry, worked in automotive industry all my life, and I was asked to give a keynote speech because of my position by CII, and I had no clue what to say in the presence of the stalwarts of the space sector from India and abroad. I would like to look at the recording of that. I probably made a fool of myself in that speech. But the conference became an excellent induction for me for the space sector. I sat through the 3 days of the virtual meeting, tried to understand every word that was spoken, tried to make sense of words like Leo, Mio, Ku, Ka, never heard of those. And I thank many of you present in this room for my induction into the space sector. As I got more into my role as chairman of INSPACe, I realized the significance that INSPACe has in the space sector. In a sense, it's the cornerstone for implementing the aggressive space reforms that Government of India has put in place. The mandate, very simply, is to help create a new industry, a new sector for private enterprise in India, and also at the same time regulate private industry in participation in space. It's a very strange mix of being a promoter and a regulator. The commitment that we have from Government of India for this activity is absolutely undoubted, serious commitment. The fact that our Honorable Prime Minister came to inaugurate the headquarters of INSPACe and spent 2 hours with us is a testimony of his personal commitment, not just to INSPACe, but to the space sector and what the space sector might mean for us. We have started in earnest, 14 MOUs signed, a team of 22 people in place, 100 plus applications, 3 authorizations given, 14 JPIPs in advanced stage. Dhruva Space and Digantra sort of made history by becoming the first companies to get authorization from INSPACe to take their payload in space in PSLV C-53 rocket on June 30th. And now Dhruva Space once again will be taking the indigenous satellite Thibault 1 and Thibault 2 on C-54. I don't want to talk too much about INSPACe in this speech. I invite you to come to the booth and see what INSPACe is doing and plans to do. What I would like to put across are some thought provokers that I believe should be our audacious goals for the space sector in India. Can we aim to increase our share by 5-fold in the next 5 to 8 years? Can we create the next SpaceX from India? A question that's often asked to me by the media. Can we be the manufacturing hub for small satellites and space-grade components? Can we become the space port and ground station hub for the world? Can we lead the way globally in downstream space applications? Can we positively impact the lives of people by eliminating digital inequality, enabling precision agriculture, empowering fishermen, efficient use of natural resources, teleeducation, telemedicare, environmentally sustainable development, autonomous vehicle, UAVs, etc., etc. Now, I have no doubt that everyone present in this room would say, yes, we should, yes, we can. But the question is, The billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar question is how? Have we created the right to win? If you don't have a clearly laid out action plan, a clearly laid out strategy, it will simply be a wishful thinking. We must recognize the challenges ahead of us in achieving these aspirations. And I would like to put forward to you 6 things. You may call it challenges or you may call it enablers. The first is institutional support and policy. Now, space sector is a sector that has a significant impact on security, on safety. There are international commitments that each country has. And therefore, government has to very carefully balance how the sector is open to private industry and ensure that we don't compromise with security and safety of a country. Clearly, there's a lot being done. The space policy just around the corner. I wish that we could have said it's all done, but it's not yet done, just around the corner. We are working on a new FDI policy to be able to enable investments into private sector by foreign enterprises, and even for companies from outside India to be in the space sector in India. INSPACe and NSIL are 2 institutional mechanisms that have been put in place by the government. And therefore, I think a lot is happening in this area already, and a lot more needs to happen for us to get to our aspirations. The second point is technological capability. Now, we all have grown up hearing the phrase, "It ain't rocket science." Now I understand, having interacted with ISRO and ISRO scientists for about a year, what that phrase really meant. The technology of space is very complex, a lot more complex than automotive industry that I'm so used to. But at the same time, we have ISRO. The technological prowess of ISRO is something that is really our strength in India for the space sector to move forward. The startups that are coming ahead are good in their niche, but they need to get a 360-degree view of technology, and ISRO is there to help each and every one to handhold, and I'm sure Mr. Somnath will talk more about that in his speech. The technology that we have today is good for today. If you want to really become a $40 billion industry, if we really want to compete in the world, we will have to do a lot more in technology. And ISRO is mandated to take our technological advancements forward. At the same time, the private sector will also have to come forward and play its role in technological advances in the space sector, as is happening in many developed countries around the world. I'm very happy to see that L&T and HAL have come together to take responsibility for making the PSLV launch vehicle. A lot more of that has to happen by the large industry players as well as the startups in India. The third point is ecosystem and infrastructure. As you all know, the space infrastructure is very expensive. ISRO, again, has a lot, but not enough to take us to $40 billion. There's a lot more that we need in terms of spaceports, in testing, R&D facilities. ISRO will continue to invest in bringing the infrastructure to be used by the whole industry. At the same time, private sector will also have to play its role in putting infrastructure in place for test R&D and maybe even launch pads in India. We will need, as I said, a lot more launch pads. We'll need plug-and-play space parks. And INSPACe has already initiated this work with many people. The foreign players, the foreign countries that are represented here, I would like to urge them to also look at India not just as a potential market, but also a place where they can have physical footprint, and from there they can provide service globally. The fourth item is financial capability. Again, space is an expensive business. Complex technology, long gestation period, requires patience and perseverance. And India, I guess, compared to many other countries, still is behind in terms of interest of investors in the space sector. Till about a week ago, it was only $100 million cumulatively that has been invested in the space sector, which is not even 10% of what happens every year in USA. But I'm very happy to see that that's slowly changing. Pixel got $25 million investment about 6 months ago, 5 months ago, And just last week, Skyroot managed $51 million investment, the highest ever by a single company in one round in India. And 25 to 50 to 75 to 150 and so on and so forth. Pretty soon we will see $500 million, $1 billion investment. And once we have some successes, once we are able to send some private sector satellites, serious satellites in orbit, launches of small launch vehicles, I'm sure the investors will take deep interest in investing in this sector. And the fifth most important area is global partnerships. And I'm very happy to see that there are so many countries represented here. There's so much interest from Australia, from Netherlands, from UK that has been expressed here in this opening session in partnering with India. There is very strong partnerships that ISRO has with many agencies, with many governments. What we need now is partnerships between private sector to private sector, between private sector to government agencies. And given the presence here of many countries, and given the presence here of all the players in the industry, this will be a good forum over the next 2-3 days to forge partnerships, to work together in technology, in market access, in investments, and in talent. India also needs to open its door for global companies to come in and start leveraging the opportunities in Indian space sector. And I'm very happy to see the interest expressed by OneWeb, by AWS, by SES in having a stronger presence in India. And finally, skill development. Again, ISRO has really a depth and breadth of skill in space technology, but again, not enough for what we want to aspire to. We need to have many more engineers to become interested in space, for which we are starting some initiatives that you can see when you go and see the exhibition of INSPACe. There are many retired ISRO experts who can be tapped by the private sector to help them, to handhold them. A lot more that needs to be done in this area because we will need probably 3 times as many space technologists as we have today in our country. And finally, I would like to say that unless we are competitive, unless we market what we are doing, we will not succeed even if we do all the things that I have talked about above. Coming from private sector, I've always believed that we cannot win if we have not created a right to win. And that right to win must be created jointly by ISRO, by large industry, by smart startups, by the government, and INSPACe will play a facilitating role in creating that right of win in partnership with many players outside India. It is not a win-lose game. It is a win-win game. There's enough for everybody, and only partnerships and collaborations will help us to get there. World is moving very fast. We need to pick up pace. But if we put all the ingredients that I talked about together, I think Indian space sector will be invincible. Let us take this exciting journey of making the space sector the sunrise sector for India, which will not only bring economic value, but also positively influence the lives of our people. As the Honorable Prime Minister said, even sky is not the limit. Thank you, CII, for this opportunity. I will be at the Expo for the next 2 days, full days, and hope to meet many of you during these 2 days. Thank you very much.